If you are, or consider yourself to already be, a beginner or even an experienced audio, video, or lighting guy or gal in the live event industry or in the film industry, independent videography industry, studio recording, or even in a podcast studio, stagehand for a concert, or setting up for a wedding, doesn't matter. If you're an audio, video, or lighting techie like me, and you're out there doing these jobs or want to get these types of jobs, you need to show up with at minimum these 4 tools to any show, any video shoot, or other live event. And why would I know or suggest these things? Well, because I've been the production and or project manager on countless weddings, concerts, some video shoots, and huge corporate events over the past 16 plus years. I'm usually the guy in charge of and hiring and commanding the crew. And I'm the one rolling my eyes at you when you don't show up prepared. And it really doesn't matter what your specialty is, audio, video, lighting, rigging. These tools apply to all disciplines. And these tools really won't cost you very much, but they go a really long way in preparing yourself for almost anything that comes up. And these 4 tools are a multi-tool, a flashlight, console tape, this is not masking tape, and a Sharpie. Or better yet, multiple Sharpies. Seriously, I know this sounds simple, like, that's it. Shouldn't I show up with some fancy microphone or real-time spectrum analyzer or light meter or a pair of headphones or my entire lighting console? No, not necessarily. If you're asked to bring those things, and if you're hired on to bring those things, if you're the A1 or the LD, the DP, sure. But I can't even count the number of times people have asked me for all 4 of these tools in rapid succession because I showed up prepared. So let's go through these and why you need to have them. The first item, a multi-tool. This to me is a no-brainer. If you show up without a multi-tool, shame on you, man. Or woman. Seriously, there are 1,000 different models of multi-tools. Cheap ones, expensive ones. This one cost me about $15, and I got it at an airport resale store from one of those bins full of items that airport security had to confiscate because it wasn't allowed on the plane. This is actually about the 3rd one of this exact model that I've owned because I've broken a few over the years with hard use. And I needed another one, so I found a used one this time. And I've had a multi-tool from day one, over 17 plus years ago when I started in this industry. Multi-tools have so many uses, obviously, hence the name multi-tool. They have pliers, screwdrivers, knife blades, can openers, bottle openers, wire crimpers. I like a model with a really small screwdriver because there are lots of small screws on audio equipment. Or if you need to cut a piece of tie line or a piece of wire, seriously, relatively thick wire, this thing will cut it. And you can strip wires too. I can't stress this enough. Show up with a multi-tool on your belt and keep it there. Unless you need to use it, of course. Because keeping it in your bag in the corner doesn't help when you need it. If it's on your belt, it's always with you. So if you're trying to wire up a stage or an amp rack, or I don't know, need to loosen a rack screw or move a piece of equipment real quick, or pry a broken XLR connector end open or out of a socket, or tighten down or loosen screws, turn a bolt, crimp a wire, tighten down your tripod plate in your camera, open a bottle for the backstage talent, you can do all of this if you're carrying a multi-tool, and you won't have to ask your coworkers. Do you know how many times my crew over the years have turned to me and asked, "Hey Marcus, do you have a multi-tool?" And my reply is, "Yes, I do. Where's yours?" If you don't have a multi-tool, you're slowing down the show if you have to go look for a basic tool. This is a Gerber model, and I like it because it's one of those types that you can flick open with one hand, just like that. And that one-handed quick operation is nice to have when you don't want to let go of the thing you need to work on. Now, when you're on a job site, larger tools like hammers and drills, those things I expect the hiring company to provide, unless I'm hired as like the lead carpenter, in which case they'd probably hire me to bring my tools. But every single person on a show call needs to show up with a multi-tool. Number 2, a flashlight. A real flashlight. And no, your cell phone does not count. We work in dark environments. It's part of what we do. Crawling under stages, behind black drape and curtains, looking in the backs of gear racks, digging around behind audio consoles. All of our spaces are in the dark, especially when it's showtime and the lights go out. And if you show up and can't find your way back to the stage or can't see the back of your console to make a quick cable patch, do not be the guy or gal asking the stage manager or the shoot director or even your coworker if they have a flashlight. And no, again, your cell phone flashlight really doesn't count. It's a good backup, but really is only good for close-up use. A good flashlight is good for close-up and relatively far away. You can light up a hallway with a small flashlight, but using your cell phone flashlight, you can only still really see a few feet in front of you if you're in a big space. And I'm not sorry that I started my production career well before cell phones had pseudo flashlights on them. I am as old as I am. I'm older than I look, and I only actually had a cell phone about 2 or 3 years before I got into live production. And cell phones at the time just didn't have flashlights on them. And even if they did, I would still have a real flashlight next to my multi-tool on my belt. So yes, our cell phones have small flashlights that can definitely help, but they shouldn't be your only source of light when in the dark. Also, as a production manager, I've often found myself in the role of security guard at times, and trust me, nobody's going to be intimidated by a cell phone light. But when needed, a good flashlight can be a very good deterrent to keep your backstage area safe as well. Trust me. And cell phones are just a lot larger and take up more space in your hand. And you can't put a cell phone in your mouth. Stay with me here, because I can't tell you how many times over the years I've just needed to hold a flashlight in my teeth so I can work with both hands free. Try that with a cell phone. And even with a small flashlight, you can still use the same hand and do something else with the flashlight still in your hand. Something you really can't do with a cell phone. It kind of takes up your entire hand if you're trying to use it as a flashlight. So find a model of flashlight that works for you and stick with it. I've been downsizing my flashlight over the past few years. This is an Olight flashlight. I actually have 2 different sizes. They're both pretty small. And this one works on a single AAA battery and has 2 brightness settings. So when you're in a really, really dark environment, you don't have to get it up to its full brightness. You can kind of be a little more incognito in the back. Find a model you like and keep it on your belt as well. Tool number 3, a roll of console labeling tape. Again, this is not masking tape. This tape is specifically made and marketed to label things like audio consoles, lighting consoles, basically anything that needs semi-temporary labeling. And again, although this may look like masking tape, it's not. Do not show up with masking tape. Masking tape is cheap, it's meant for painting, but it's a different kind of tape. And it also just does not look professional. It doesn't stick the same way as console tape. Masking tape is more translucent and thinner than console tape, so the ink from whatever you're writing with may go through masking tape, and masking tape is harder to get off of certain items. It just doesn't look good. Console tape is thicker. It's just about completely opaque, so you can write on it with a Sharpie and the ink won't go through the tape. I like the 3/4 inch rolls for portability, and 3/4 inch seems to fit on more pieces of equipment between all the knobs and faders and everything. And it's just a little more compact in your bag or your pocket or hanging on your belt than something like a 1-inch roll, just a little bigger. The 1 inch for me is just a little too thick sometimes. But they also now make these in mini rolls. These are awesome. It's great for labeling cables for the shoot or the show. Just always remember to remove all of your labels at the end of the show, because almost all tapes will eventually leave some sort of sticky residue. If any of the AV techs on the show needs to know what these 3 cables are going from or to, they'll know if you have a label on them. It's great and will help you start your event off in the right direction and keep it organized. Now, the hiring company may have a stock of tape that they let you use, and that's pretty typical, but it's always good to have in your bag anyway. And you can't finish labeling something without the next tool, so bring a Sharpie. Or even better, 2 Sharpies. Seriously, I'm a bit of an organizational freak when it comes to building out a show or when I'm on site. It's very important to not only be organized so you and your team can operate efficiently, but it also goes a long way to keep your setup clean and organized, and clients will notice. And you'll just look and be more professional. For me, everything needs to be labeled. Every cable, every console, everything. And console tape and a Sharpie are your best friends. And don't bring another brand marker, just get the Sharpie brand. I'm not trying to push Sharpie, I'm not a Sharpie representative, this isn't sponsored by Sharpie, but if you're in the production industry, you ought to know what these are by now and why they're so great. They dry quickly, which means your labeling on that console tape won't smudge. Other markers either don't dry or take a long time to dry. It's 2021, folks, you should know what a Sharpie is by now. And you need to have a few of them on any film shoot, concert, wedding, corporate event, period. And they also are very handy for those times when the talent forgets something to sign autographs with. Be the hero. Hand them a Sharpie. But get it back from them, because people steal Sharpies. Seriously, Don't show up with an entire box of Sharpies, because when others start to think of you as the Sharpie provider, then they won't bring Sharpies. And they need to. Lazy. So, to recap, multi-tool, flashlight, console tape, Sharpies. Easy, cheap, professional. Trust me, as someone who's been hiring professional and beginning audio, video, and lighting operators and technicians for concerts, weddings, film shoots, and corporate events for, again, 17 years, these are my top 4 tools that any beginner and professional needs to show up with. Show up prepared. Don't disappoint me. Later.